Entrepreneurs, what's your value ladder? Do you have a value ladder? We're going to talk about it on today's podcast.
I've spent the last 20 years studying, teaching, and coaching people to find their greatness and take their lives to the next level. Along the way, it's become evident that emotions are at the root of everybody's successes and failures. Worry and fear are the enemies, and it's time to forge the armor and earn the tools to overcome the two things that could single-handedly destroy your future. Hi, my name is Michael Johnson, and I'm a life coach, a peak performance trainer, and I'm the emotions guy. It's time to take back control of how you feel, control of how you act, and control of how you experience life. It's time to become a lifer, a new breed of overachiever focused on living every minute to its fullest. We are responsible for how we feel, and no one and no thing can make us feel anything. Emotional mastery is our journey, and emotional education and intelligence is the key. We are lifers, and this is Magic for Life.
What's up, lifers? Michael Johnson here with the Magic for Life podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. We are going to talk about your value ladder. Do you have one set up? Have you drawn it? Have you literally drawn your value ladder? You should have, right? And remember, if you're not watching on YouTube, go like and subscribe. We'd love to see you there. And you can leave a comment about your favorite episode. Maybe it's this one. We'll see. All right. So we're going to talk about your value ladder. What is your value ladder? Well, you should have a ladder like we just drew, right? You should have a ladder that starts from the bottom. Just think of it as like 3 or 4 steps, right? And on the first step is the first step that your customer is going to take when they walk into your world. So they see you over on the corner selling something, right? Like the farmer's market or something like that, right? And they see you and they go, ooh, I want to buy that. I'd like to have that. And so they step into your world. They take that first step on your value ladder. Now, why do we call it a value ladder? Because you are going to offer value. You know that. I know that. We all know we're going to offer value. Why? Because, well, please don't sell air, right? I mean, like, be legit. Sell something that actually is going to help somebody else. And if you do, you can be really confident and positive about what it is that you're selling, what it is that you're exchanging, right? Because what is selling, right? Maybe you have an adverse reaction to the word sale. Don't worry. Everybody's selling everything. If you have a significant other, you sold yourself to that significant other and tried to convince them that you were the person they should spend the rest of their life with, right? You sell on a regular basis. You sell in every aspect of your world. And I'll tell you what, you have not been able to get around it. Try to prove me wrong. Go ahead. Send me an email and let me know that I'm wrong. Go ahead, right? But you sell in all sorts of different ways. It's just some ways you think otherwise of. Now, here's the thing. I know that if you're an entrepreneur, you probably either have a product or service that you love and that you're passionate about, or you have an idea and something that's coming, that's brewing, and that you're like, oh, I could do that. And if you can gain the confidence and the belief behind that idea and that passionate concept that you have, you could probably turn that into a business and into something that will serve other people. And if you do, you're going to need to sell it to them. And if you're going to need to sell it to them, you're going to need to have a value ladder. And why value ladder? Because we've got to add value to the people that we're selling things to. So you've heard me talk about my pen, right? Because I hold it here and you've heard it in a few of the episodes. But let's say I was going to sell you this pen. If you have a pen, you don't need it. And so you're probably going to have a hard time buying this pen from me. However, you all have pens and you still buy pens. Why? Well, all sorts of different reasons come about, and the people that sell pens are looking for all of those reasons why you would buy a pen, and they're trying to get in front of you at those moments and at those times. And that's it. So if they can add value to you with that pen, then you will buy the pen. Now, that's really overly simplistic, right? But let's just say I sell calculators. Whoop. My other trusty dusty prop, for today, right? If I sell a calculator, what's it for? Well, this particular calculator probably wouldn't be any good for my daughter. She's in, I don't remember what level of math she's in, but this would probably not be all that useful. She needs one of those fancy dancy calculators that'll like calculate how you get to the moon. They don't use them that way, but you could probably do it with her calculator, and she's going to need that very special calculator. Now, you might only need this little calendar or calculator. That's all I need is just this little sucker right here. I can do my calculations as I need to. You might not even need that anymore because most phones now come with a calculator on it. Okay, so now here's the trick. If you sell a calculator, what kind of value are you going to add to the person that's buying that calculator? It's pretty simple, really. Right? You need to calculate numbers. What do you need it for? Is it going to be in the business section? Is it going to be in the grocery section? Is it going to be with all of the school supplies? Is it going to be, where are you going to put that in the store, right? So you're looking at it and going, how can I add value to the person that's going to buy this calculator? And well, if I put it in over in the school section, then kids that need it for school will buy it. So that's putting it in front of the right audience, right? Now, this calculator might not be the end all or the thing that you sell. Now, maybe it is, right? But let's just say this was just the thing that you used to get people to know who Pen Plus Gear was. This is a plug. Go, I don't know about Pen Plus Gear, right? But I got it at Walmart. So anyway, but if your Pen Plus Gear is a calculator, your top end product. If it's not, it might very well be your first product on your value ladder. And that's great. It might be the thing that gets you into the world of Pen Plus Gear, right? And if it gets you into their world, now they come back and they go, hey, did you like that calculator? I bet it calculated for you. Did it? And if it did, I have some more things for you that you might like. And you can believe me because, hey, I bet it calculated just fine, right? And if it did and the product was good, then you tend to believe it. Imagine that. It did what they said it did. Now, that could be a front-end product for you. That could be the thing that got that client, that customer into your world, and now they know who Pen Plus Gear is, right? And so now all of a sudden you go and say, well, but I have this other thing. Yeah, and this other thing is the fanciest, danciest stapler that you could ever get. In fact, it'll staple for you. You just put the papers in and it goes and it staples for you. Those do exist, by the way. They're really cool. So that might be like a $200 product because it's a fancy dancy sensor, motion activated, staple your papers for you kind of thing, right? So maybe I got you into my world with a simple calculator that was a few bucks. And then I came back to you later and said, well, hey, you know, people that bought that fancy or that simple calculator also liked this fancy dancy stapler, right? And if they like that stapler, well, hey, you might like it too. So this stapler is normally $200, but you know what? I'll let it go for, you know, $100, $150. Yeah, it's $150. How about that? But you know what? Today, if you buy it today, I'll give it to you for $100 because you're here and you bought this other thing from me. And well, I'll just give you a special deal because we like you as a customer. We want you to keep coming back. You go, well, I really want the fancy stapler. Okay, so I'll get it. Well, then you look up the value ladder a little bit more of this little set, and I come back and I go, hey, you know what? People that bought calculators and people that bought that fancy dancy stapler, they also really, really, really like this laminating machine. Now, it may very well be that the laminating machine is my business. That might be my $400 product. That's special laminating machine. I'm just making this up, really, honestly, on the spot. Okay. So maybe that's what I really want to sell. Right. And so now I come back and I go, well, people who bought that calculator and people who bought that fancy dancy stapler also really, really liked this this laminating machine. It's really cool. It does this and it does da, 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 da. And now I have a better shot of selling that. in this little mini value ladder. Now, that's a pretty simple version of how a value ladder could work. Now, that is a value ladder for a particular set of products, right? You might have a value ladder for your entire business. And in your entire business, you might say, well, here are all of the front end products. I have a calculator, and I have some pens, and I have these special USB things, and I have all these things on the front end that I have, and I can actually trade with you for money because you need them and I make them. And those might all be small end products. But if I have to make my $1 billion empire off of a pen, well, I guess there are companies that do that, right? All right, so they found a way to do it. But in this particular example, maybe these are just too small of a item to make any sort of margin off of. Maybe I can't make that margin off them. So maybe I'm going to put them on the front end of my value ladder. And if I do, now I have something to draw people in that's very low cost and very low commitment, right? You don't have to trust me that much to buy my calculator, and you'll spend some money on it. But if I can get you in and get you in with that calculator, and you go, oh yeah, that's really nice. And yeah, that worked really good. And oh, other people bought the fancy dancy stapler. Okay, yeah, I'd like one of those too. Well, that's great for that little product set, that string. But what if you could do that for your entire company? What if you could have a value ladder that says, hey, here are all my front end products, here are all my mid-tier products, here are all my next tier products, and maybe you even have a very high end, here are all my high end products. Could you start on any one of those steps of the ladder? Yeah. The higher up you go, the more expensive you go in your value ladder, the harder it is to sell a customer, right? It's like trying to go out with somebody on a first date and asking them to marry you. Now, if you're somebody that did that, you better send me an email because I want to know about it. Yeah. info@magicforlife.com. If you're that person that went on a first date and went, yeah, will you marry me? Because you know what? That's not very common. That is not a very typical thing. So if you're going to sell them this really high end, expensive product, and you think that you're going to go out on a first date with them and go, hey, now buy this $25,000 product, they're going to look at you and go, I don't think so. Right? Do you see how many commercials car companies put out there? Have you noticed how many times you've seen that same stinking car commercial and you're like, if I see this commercial one more time, I've had it, right? Well, what they're doing is they're making sure that it's not your first date when they ask you for $30,000 for a car. Right? They're making sure that when you show up or when you have the time and the need for a car that you think, oh, I remember seeing that car and I kind of liked it. And oh, I want to be like the person driving the car. So then you show up, but you've had this whole relationship, this whole experience, this whole feeling about being in their world and with that car. And so you show up and you're ready to put down $30,000, $50,000. Whatever $1,000 your car is going to be, because they've already created this relationship with you. But they do a lot of work and they invest massive amounts of money in their ad spend and in their relationship building so that they can take you to a high end right away. But with cars, they don't typically sell you a low end product, right? But they put in and invest massive amounts on the front end in terms of public relations and marketing to get you to the point where you can buy a high-end product on the back end, right? If you're not going to do that, if you don't have thousands and thousands of dollars to put into ad spend and go through the ups and downs of the challenge of ad spend, then maybe you ought to consider building a little value ladder, right? That you can actually say, hey, you know what? Here's this thing that I can give you and it's huge value and you and I can agree on it. You don't have to like marry me right now, but here, why don't you try this pen out? It'll be great. Try out my calculator. It'll be great. Here you go. Right? And there are lots of ways to build up your value ladder, whether you're doing e-commerce products or whether you're doing info products or whether you're doing services or brick and mortar, whatever you're doing. There are lots of things you can put into different portions of your value ladder. And in some instances, you can even get creative and put different things in different phases of this value ladder as you build your customer's journey through your world. And as you understand and learn their journey through your world, sometimes you build your value ladder as you go. And sometimes that's necessary if you're starting a new thing, if you're starting something that really hasn't been done before. Sometimes you have to create the marketplace and build that value ladder. And I've had to do that before in my past. I come from a background of ballroom, and I was a professional ballroom dancer. I also own a brick and mortar ballroom school, right? And there have been times when I've had to train the market. And as I've trained the market, I had to start with little things and go, well, here's this little thing. And then later on down the line, I could turn it into something else because I trained the market. That's a lot of work. Right. So you might want to consider really doing some stuff here on the front end that will help people understand how to go through the journey of your company, your products and services. And it starts by understanding your value ladder. Now, don't get me wrong, eating the whole elephant in one time and trying to create your ultimate business, value ladder can be a bit daunting. It can be a little bit challenging. Maybe just start with a product line or a launch of some of your products that can show that you are legit, you are the real thing. And this can start with, and this is, if you're a brand new entrepreneur and you're listening to this right now, this can start with just your first product and service that you're going to deal with, that you're going to build your company off of. If you're a established business, and you've already been doing this for a while, it might be that you've already figured out where you're at in the top of the value ladder, and you might actually be able to explode your business by putting in a front end or a mid end or mid tier that would actually help start feeding through a pipeline to get you your high ticket customers for whatever your high ticket service is. Again, whether it's an actual e-commerce product or whether it's an info product like a course or some sort of delivery of information or service, right? So you can do this in a lot of different ways. And honestly, the thing I'm trying to encourage you the most to do right now is, if you hadn't heard this term value ladder, well, I'm glad I can share it with you today. If you have and you haven't actually sat down and written it out, literally take your paper out or a notebook and draw yourself a little ladder and say, what do I do? What do I sell that will go in each of these spaces? And as you look at it, you might go, well, gosh, I don't have anything that goes in this space or in that space, and start to think about it and just imagine the possibilities. Remember, you're a lifer. The I in lifer is imagine the possibilities. So sit down, take your value ladder out and imagine the possibilities, right? Then we can go back and we can go, well, let's focus on this little piece. Anyway, I hope this helps. If you know somebody, if you know another entrepreneur that needs to hear about this value ladder thing, it's important. This is a big deal. And literally I'm just scratching the surface, right? We're just barely putting our finger on the iceberg and going, wow, there's an iceberg there. Okay. But this is a great way to start. This is a great element to talk about first. And it's a great element to talk about even if you are in the end game and you're looking at it and going, how can I fix this value ladder so that life is easier, right? This is magic for life, right? And I know we're talking business here, but we've got to do some things to make sure that you can improve your life in business and outside of business, right? And this will make a big difference. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you loved what it is. If you have some comments, if you have some questions, please feel free to send them in at info@magicforlife.com. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're on YouTube, and or leave us a comment on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and let us know that you're loving Magic for Life. We'll see you on the next episode.
Happiness is a choice. Sadness is a choice. All emotions are a choice. Sometimes doing our emotions doesn't seem like it's our choice, but it is. You have control. You are the captain of your ship, and you must learn how to be the best captain you can be. Let me show you how. Pick up your free copy of my new book, Every Minute, at everyminutebook.com.